I thought we would kind of extrapolate on what we talked about last week with the ideas of nutrition and behavior changes. This came from a talk that I attended at our AANP conference that really had me excited because it was the offering of different ideas for weight management. And this is a very, very, very common topic that's we're going to see in a doctor's office, right? Somebody has a really hard time losing weight. And this talk that I went to, she really brought up the idea that there's a lot of myths around obesity. There's a lot of myths around weight gain. And we know this as naturopathic doctors because we know that the thyroid, the adrenal, the hormonal axis plays a huge role in metabolism. Stress and the nervous system plays a huge role in metabolism. Inflammation plays a huge role in metabolism. So when you look at each of these areas, you really start to debunk the myth that people who are struggling with weight need to exercise more and eat less. That is a really big myth. And even if that were true, even if we were having an emotional eating event and over consuming calories, that in and of itself, you want to definitely break down to understand the behavior and the outlook that somebody has with their food. And I thought I'd kind of go into that a little bit. I almost thought I should do a reaction video today. Maybe I'll do that. This morning I was listening to some information and a man, came up on, I think it was TikTok or something like that, about emotional eating. And he was giving his advice on emotional eating. And I don't really know his background. He might be a type of therapist or whatever, but he offered the notion that people who are emotionally eating, they're just going to have to feel their feelings. They're going to have to put down the food and feel their feelings. And I get that. And to me, I was like, I talk to people a lot about their behaviors around food because I study irritable bowel syndrome. I did my background at the IBS treatment center in Santa Monica. So we studied a lot of inflammation that was from food and food habits, right? And then we were getting people to change that, right? And so I come face to face every day with somebody's food habits and their food relationship and all of it, right? And I know enough to observe. People are really interesting and fascinating, right? So you observe somebody and you're going to ask them, okay, here's a nutritional piece that I would like you to change. And then you're going to see how they're taking it, right? So if I say, I want you to reduce gluten, dairy, egg, soy, it looks like these are inflammatory foods on this food allergy panel. We probably have to stop eating those. We have to start eating all these vegetables, fish, here's some meats. The big thing is somebody probably is like, I don't like those foods over there, but I really like these foods over here. We have this little joke in nutrition that the food that you hate is probably the one that's going to save your life. It's like gross to you. And the food that you actively love is the one that's actively killing you, like ice cream, for example, So we kind of have this dynamic with our food. So to that person's point is, I mean, maybe if you're really getting into somebody's, patterns with their food, if they are using food as a way to not feel feelings, that's one thing. I personally kind of observe people on the other end of the spectrum. The other idea is that people feel their feelings a lot. It's a lot. They feel a lot of stress. They are under a lot of pressure. They are feeling it very much. Just because they're not screaming and running into walls or something doesn't mean they're not feeling it. People often do have a lot of emotional control and a lot of maybe a poker face or something like that, right? And they are feeling intensity and they are stuck in that intensity and they're feeling their feelings just fine. They just need a relief valve, So we talk about that a lot with behavior changes in food, is to say like, hey, when do you find that you're eating this stuff? If they're like, well, I go home at the end of a work day and I just, I'm looking for candy or I'm looking for chips or whatever it is. I kind of am like, are you what's going on there? Like maybe they have this high pressure day, or maybe they've got a situation in their personal life that is really challenging and there is kind of no relief out of it. And then they're feeling this like downtime and I just want to eat a bowl of ice cream, or I just want to eat this or that. So that isn't so simple. This individual was saying, okay, you have to feel those feelings. I think that person's felt those feelings all day long, and I think they're probably just looking for something different, something to kind of help with that. It makes sense. We talk about this with the nervous system. If your epinephrine, norepinephrine, glutamate, your excitatory nervous system is up here all day long. Anxiety, fight or flight. You're doing this. The excitatory nervous system over time inhibits the inhibitory nervous system. And for simplicity's sake, we'll call it serotonin, dopamine, GABA, right? Anxiety goes up, those inhibitory systems go down, right? So we live in these like polarities of here's the pressure, here's the anxiety. And then when I come home, then, oh my, I feel that low dopamine. I feel that low serotonin. I feel that low situation here. It doesn't feel great. And yes, that person might want to get out of that and be back up here. That is not, you can do that with food, you can do that with cigarettes, you can do that with alcohol. There's all that kind of behavior situation where that person, maybe we call it dopamine hunting, right? They want out of that low scenario. That when, if that pattern is going on, you're going to ask your person about that to say, okay, is that kind of what you're feeling? Do you have that going on? And, if they feel safe enough to talk to you about that, then yeah, you might say, well, we might, in my world, I would work with 5-HTP or tyrosine or even L-theanine, these kind of amino acids and the cofactors with all of that. You might work to stabilize that. It might be quite in dynamic. We're never just one or two or three things, right? So there's probably a dynamic at play here. And yes, that person might have to sit there and feel that sadness or feel that stuff. And I have a really good list of referrals that I work with therapists. So if I am seeing somebody who is struggling with that, then absolutely it is okay. We normalize therapy in my world. It is okay to go and talk to a therapist who can help you kind of like understand things and reframe things and, kind of help you with those emotions. The other is, yes, to sit with the emotions and write them out and all that kind of stuff. But the other type of people have been doing that all day and they really just want an escape out of that emotion. And so that's a different dynamic. That might be, hey, I would really just like a sparkle of oxytocin. They want something good happening in their life. That might be, let us help you reframe the course of events. Let us help you reframe the day, so if they're in a situation where they have to endure something for a long period of time, that also is a great therapy referral. That's going to be somebody who can help you with some tools through something, help you with different boundaries, help you with different ways to give reactions, So there's a lot of dynamic there that can help that person. Back to food. So in changing food habits, there's some emotional discord. In fact, this, I'll kind of tell you about this balance that we talked about with food changes. You've got the role of the brain in appetite regulation, for example. We've got a homeostatic eating, right? That is the category of, I feel hungry. Like I'm hungry, my stomach's growling, my blood sugar's low. I have to go eat something. There's that. Right? That's just the biochemistry of like your blood glucose and, how your body wants and takes in food. Hedonic eating is for emotion, for pleasure. Like I am eating this food because it's raising up my dopamine, it's raising up my oxytocin. I feel good when I eat it. That's a pleasure experience, right? You can see that, yes, if that, that can get into what we're going to talk about really is executive functioning. So the feeling of food, liking something, it's your favorite food, it's yummy, I like this, it feels good. And then, yes, I'm hungry. Now we have executive functioning, right? The executive functioning is deciding what to do and when to eat, what to eat, that kind of, the behavior around the food. That's where the change comes into play. So what you're going to do is, okay, like, are you calm when you eat? Like, are you in parasympathetic state? If you just take a big deep breath, if we can kind of get you out of fight or flight, that actually helps the digestive tract really receive your food better. So we talk about that in my practice, like calming down and just even accessing the parasympathetic nervous system with a big deep breath. You know, being calm when you're eating is a good habit, right? It's going to help you out of a dynamic with your stress situation, your stress management. Now, the choices of food. I think we've all stood in front of the pantry before and are like, what should I eat? That doesn't sound good. That doesn't sound good. I'm hungry, but I don't know what to eat. And so this is where I think working with a nutritionist or working with, naturopathic doctor or somebody, we can say, you know what, I think in your particular case for your nutrition right now, we're going to minimize these inflammatory foods. I really want us to, have a balance with carbohydrate and with fats and with proteins. We're going to choose something different here. We're going to make these new vegetables the star. Yes, we're going to make them taste good. That's my mother's famous line is, food's got to taste good. You're not going to eat it. Hedonic eating, right? If you're like, oh, here, taste this gross food, you're not going to make that your habit. I don't care who you are. And yes, our taste buds do change. So we might have foods we do not eat. For me, it's peas. I don't like a cooked pea. I think it's the texture. Not my food. I just get the heebie-jeebies with it. I don't like it, I don't know why. I mean, I guess I could work on it, but I like raw peas just fine, but they have a completely different texture. Probably because they're mushy and I just don't like that, right? Probably if I worked on it, I could get it into my world, but I don't know. I mean, there's other things I could eat though. So it's not a problem. It's not a pathology for me. So when you are introducing new foods, you do have to have a little experimentation with it. And so we call it a no thank you bite at our house, so if it's, hey, I've got to get vegetables into my system. I've got to, try some spinach, a beautiful sauce, a lovely balsamic with a very high quality olive oil. Oh my gosh, you could cover anything in that. So a lot of times working with the flavor profiles that you like and making them into a healthy way, that's outstanding. That's a really awesome deal, so that helps you then eat your healthy foods and make healthy choices because it's going to taste good, and so that's a great way to, just start there. Start with the flavor profile. What's the flavor profile of the green bean casserole that we like? Okay, we like these things about it. Now let's make that whole thing into a healthier option. And then, you can even take these traditional foods and do that. These families that, and give these inherited recipes, right? And they're yummy and they're beautiful nostalgia, but now you can make them you can make them healthier, so that you can live longer, and happier. So I'm saying here that the executive function is definitely where the choice making comes in. And this is where I guess some uncomfortable feelings might come up because it's having to understand new habits and maybe even new social dynamic. We write about that quite a bit, is that, friends, don't pressure friends to not be healthy. It's the same kind of dynamic with alcohol cessation and having supportive friends around you for that. So you want to be around people and family members who are going to encourage healthy choices, right? And for you as a person, if you are feeling that that's not welcome, then you get to have a boundary. You get to say, you know what, this does not work for me. I have to, this is what I respect. This is what I need in my life. I can't have unhealthy food in the house. I cannot do it. And because there'll be times when I'm tired or something. And now that said, do I have enough self-control to not eat Doritos? Yes, I do. There is that. If I have something and I know I can commit to it, then I can change. Okay. I've given myself that power. I'm not a helpless creature, right? So what happens is that although if we want unhealthy things, we have to go find it outside of the house. I really nurture the environment to be making of healthy choices. It's not easy for us to eat unhealthy in our house. And I think that's a really okay thing, it's just accessibility. There's studies that talk about that with, with substance abuse. If it's not around you, you're not going to take it in. That's a very simple scenario, but it's the same thing with nutrition and with behavior. So You're going to rewire a habit. Something new is uncomfortable, and whenever we learn something new, we do feel a little vulnerable and we have our frustration that goes up. That is okay. You can do hard things. You learned math. Every day in math was probably like that for us too, because it was like, this is a little uncomfortable. I don't know. I don't get what's going on. And then things clicked, and then you got great at it, and counting worked out, and addition worked out, and multiplication worked out, and all of it, so it builds on each other. And you will, with your behavior changes with food and with changes with food, it's the same thing. You'll get the person into this context of like, hey, guess what? You're going to learn how to cook. You're going to learn, a new recipe. You're going to learn a new skill. It's going to become easy. And then people are like, oh yeah, that is easy. I can cook chicken. I can do this. Start with like the 20-minute meals that are pretty simple, and get somebody feeling successful in that road. And then they can expand on that, so you're building skills. It's a learning curve. You're teaching new habits. You're teaching new, skill sets. And then you're also working on that underlying emotional piece, so I get what the content creator was saying about you're gonna have to feel your emotions, but I think the other side of it is totally true, where people are feeling their emotions, and it's a burden, and it's hard for them. So I see that the opposite is true, that they actually are looking for a relief. They're looking for a sparkle of joy. And so you kind of have to work with your person in both ways, right? And maybe it is a mixture of both. Remember, we're not so linear. We're complicated creatures. So when you are eating, be in your calm nervous system, right? And then ask yourself, I've done this to myself before, am I hungry? And I'm like, no, I just ate an hour ago. I'm not hungry. Oh, I'm anxious. Kind of anxious. And then you start to check in with the emotion, and maybe that's something where you can kind of write that down if you want to, or if you're like, oh, I think I'm feeling this feeling differently. And then for me, I remember at work I was like, I'm just gonna go for a walk around the building. Oh, I'm not hungry anymore. Because for me, I get tied to my desk just like everybody, and so it'll be like, I have not really moved my body that well, so it's like, I think it's time to just take a little break, go for a little walk, come back, check in with the nervous system. And the nervous system is like calmer, right? So it's to really provide some space of observation with your food habit, and to check in with the emotions around your food, right? And then maybe really kind of objectively look at your food that you're about to take in. I always like the question, is this the most loving thing I can do for my body? So let's say it's like, I am hungry and I'm like, oh, I want something. I'm looking for a snack, right? Okay. If there's some, like, I don't know, some ice cream-ish type thing, and then let's say I have a bowl of berries and maybe some chia seed pudding, yes, I would love that ice cream thing, but really, like, have I had enough fiber today? No, I haven't. Maybe that bowl of berries and chia seed pudding is going to be a great idea, and then I can make it taste yummy, right? Because make your food taste yummy. Now, does that say that the ice cream is forbidden? No. It's fun to do it with ice cream. Okay, we're going to go out and we're going to eat some ice cream. And usually I'll try to find, almond milk ice cream or something like that. Or if my son and I especially are like, hey, we'd like some ice cream, we find like a little portion of ice cream and we make it an event. It's like a fun thing. It's a fun memory, right? And so can it sit in the refrigerator for months? Yes, it can, so we also have power. It doesn't mean that all of our refrigerator is full of ice cream, right? No, that's not it. But we can go get some fun ice cream. We make it a fun event. And I also will make it a vehicle for lots of fruit. And you can stick chia seeds on your ice cream, mind you. So like if I'm going to eat some ice cream, it'll be yummy. We'll put some berries in it. I actually put a couple tablespoons of chia seeds in it. And then that's how we have it. But is that a regular thing? No, we probably do that every couple of weeks, maybe once a month, something like that. So those fun things with a treat like that are not an everyday thing. And they're just a fun memory thing that we do. So I think your choice making, that executive functioning around food, you're going to check in with yourself. You're going to check in with your nervous system. You're going to, ask yourself a question, because especially if you're like, gosh, I'm hungry, I'm, dopamine hunting, right? Be like, when was the last time I ate? Oh, it was this morning. I guess my blood sugar might be low. So yeah, it might be time to eat, but if it's like, gosh, I ate an hour ago, it's likely not true hunger, right? You want to just understand the nutrient situation. And that's another thing too, is like we can have these cravings because we are craving, minerals and stuff like that. Oh, hi, Mercedes. Good to see you. So these cravings can come from someplace, So, but check in with the emotion around it, Am I, dealing with an uncomfortable emotion? Have I been under a lot of stress and pressure today? And I just need fun. My last client and I talked about fun quite a bit. We were like, yeah, I think we need recess again. It would be so nice to just have recess time, a collective recess where we all go out and play, and then come back and do our work. Oh my God, why did we ever stop that? I really think, if your fun is coming from food, oh yeah, food can be fun, but it's way more fun to share that. So if I'm going to make a cake, I only make a cake if I can share it with a bunch of people. And so I'll bring it to work, I'll bring it to a friend's house, that kind of thing. Like, it has to be shared. So that's a fun thing. We're not going to have that for just me and my son, right? So, but fun can come in other ways. So if you're, looking for your sparkle of joy and it's coming through your ice cream, yeah, we want to kind of look at that and reformulate that a little bit. And we always swap to a healthier option if that's kind of happening, especially emotional eating, dysregulated eating. If that's happening in different ways, maybe we swap to healthier choices all the time until we can kind of come, get in a place of peace with the emotions. And that a good therapist helps with that a ton. I've got like I mentioned, a lot of good therapy referrals out there, and I'm very much interested in trauma patterns and trauma responses and that kind of thing. So I think when you're getting information about emotional eating, just be aware that it's not so myopic, it's not so one-sided. I know this gentleman was saying, okay, let's, you're gonna have to feel your emotions. Yeah, probably for some people that might be the case. Other people, it might be they've felt their emotions too much all day, and they're just looking for their little sparkle of joy. So understanding your emotions behind food and then making the choices differently is useful, but we're always here for you. So all of that a lot of times takes another person to help you with. So doing that on your own, oh my gosh, I can imagine how confusing that could be. So I really, really recommend working with naturopathic doctors or nutritionists or dietitians who can kind of help you with that. But all these people, I always encourage having high emotional awareness, emotional intelligence, because what we don't want to get you involved in is somebody who's just like, eat this way, and if you don't eat this way, we're going to food shame you. That doesn't work either, and that's the wrong kind of idea. I always tell the students that I'm working with you don't have to be a therapist. You're going to refer to your professional therapists, of course, but you've got to think like one, where you have to do no harm, right? And so shaming somebody is doing harm. And so being aware of somebody's relationship that they have with food, and knowing that you're going into changing a habit, which can stir up some uncomfortable things, and that's okay. Making a safe space for that person, making something where they don't feel like you're going to be mad at them if they made this diet change, or they didn't make the diet change. I'm always okay with people who come in and they're like, I didn't do anything you said for me to do. And I think that's a win, because number one, you told me and you didn't lie to me about it. That's awesome. You trust me enough to be like, here's all my vulnerability and here's all my stuff that I don't want you to see. I'm showing it to you. And I'm like, thank you, thank you for just telling me that. That's awesome. Let's work on how and why and whatever, I mean, perfection isn't if you don't reach that level of perfection, that's not a failure. That's just, I don't know. You just, you're working on stuff, and we're all working on stuff. So anyway, so just go to somebody who has a level of emotional intelligence and awareness about behavior changes around food. big time. Like, always have that. And that's on you. Pay attention to how you feel. If you're like, I don't like that, I don't feel I don't like the way that felt. You're right. Pay attention to that inner part of you that if you're, working with somebody and you just didn't like how you were treated, you're right. You're right. And you get to make choices for yourself that are different, So we always want to encourage that. But yeah, I'm reading through this talk some more, and I hope like maybe next week we're going to talk about, it might be interesting to do a little piece on the GLP-1s and kind of what they're about, and it's kind of the buzzword right now, and it's a big thing. So it might be interesting to go through the mechanism and kind of understand what's happening on that level. So this is just all fascinating to me. So anyway, I will probably see you next week. And yeah, if you get any questions, just go to my website. I think if you're on my page, you'll be able to find that. But it's northstarhealingcenter.com. And I'm Dr. Amy Nelson. So, all right, see you later.